What's going on, everybody? Welcome to TEPS Podcast, or as you old school fans know, the Everything Paranormal Show, episode I think 205 now. And joining me tonight, we got a great show tonight because we have Dr. Rose here with Lilly. So excited for those of you that follow her on Facebook. You know her channel is Lilly Rose. So I'm excited to dive in and talk about her situation, and we're going to get to know her. And also we got a couple articles coming up as well that we're going to read in the Paranormal Underground magazine, one of those about the Elba Twitch. So for those of you Pennsylvania folks that know about the Elba Twitch, you're going to want to tune in, because you probably want to get in the comments and school us because we're probably not going to have any idea. But we're going to read that. And we also got coming up, we're going to be also talking about some of the human pendulum experiments that's used as a technique in some paranormal investigations. So I'm sure we'll talk about some investigation techniques. All right, so let's get started. So, Dr. Rose, how are you this evening?
I'm well.
Awesome. And for those folks that are not familiar with you, please give us a brief summary of who you are and that little gem you're holding.
Well, I'm Stephanie Rose. This is Lilly Rose. She is my haunted doll. Um, I have a science background. I've always been fascinated by things you can't see, I guess you could say. I've always been a sensitive, so I've always had this, I don't know, parallel in my head between being a sensitive and then being like very logical and wanting to know why things happen the way they do, and just kind of fascinated by the paranormal. I have my bachelor's degree in chemistry and my doctorate. I have a doctorate of pharmacy and a doctorate of medicinal chemistry.
Nice. That's way more than me. I think I graduated high school and I did some college. That's about it. I did life. That's about all I can say. I was in the military. That's about it. But no, that's awesome. So let's dive in and find out. So I think my first question would be like, obviously you would think I'd want to talk about Lilly, but we're gonna get there. And that would be like, what about you? Like, at what point did you realize that you really liked and you were fascinated by something beyond?
Probably as a child. I, like I said, always been a sensitive and seeing things, but I couldn't explain. I guess the first real experience I had, my grandfather passed away, and I think I was about 13. And afterwards, he visited me, and I never really told anyone because I didn't think anyone believed me, and it just kind of sounded crazy. And like I said, I'm very logical in my head, trying to figure out how these things work. But let's see, I've really only done a lot of investigating past year. I just have been obviously busy in my life.
Right.
It's the first time I've had time, to go out and explore. But yeah, kind of new to this.
Okay. And so when you said you had that first experience, I mean, what was it like for you? And like, how old were you roughly? Do you remember?
I think I was about 13.
Okay. So that's definitely a very impressionable age too.
Yeah.
Especially like when you're old enough to like remember stuff pretty well and be smart enough, usually even at 13, to kind of figure some things out. But what was your, like, how did you like interpret that?
I think I tried to suppress it a little bit, but I just kind of in my head tried to reason it like, well, maybe I just missed him, maybe it was just something in my head that I thought I saw. But looking back, yeah, definitely was him.
Yeah, I mean, and that sounds really similar to even how I was, like, even with the little bit of experiences I had up and even till adulthood, it was like I always in the back of my mind thought, well, maybe I was younger, maybe I was imagining something. I don't know. So I was, I could see that. So, and you said that you just started investigating in the like last year or so. You said.
Yeah.
So, how did that come about? Like, what did you just like? Was there a team you joined, or like did you start a team? I mean, what how did that come about?
I just have a friend. He and I have been going out. Like I went to Lake Shawnee, um, Trans-Allegheny. Of course, I posted some pictures. We took Lily. Um,
So wait, this was like, was this wait a minute, was this like a dating thing? Was you like dating somebody, and there's like this was like your dates?
sort of, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to gather. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. So this is like you got into it through dating, and you're like, okay, I like this. This is fun. Oh, but that's awesome. So what was the first type thing that you did? You know, when you said you, I know you mentioned Trans Allegheny just for a second ago, but what was the first place you went to?
Um, Probably, well, besides a couple of cemeteries, Lake Shawnee, the amusement park.
Okay,
Um, we didn't overnight there. He's more with the technology part, so we had REM pods, a lot of experiences with those going off at certain times,
right.
um, seeing orbs and just like a swing started swinging.
Okay, yeah.
And
So okay, and then by the way, Mark Howland popped in and said hi, Lily. Um, so okay, what at what point did you end up acquiring Lily there?
let's see, I've had her probably about 4 months, I think. Um, and when I first got her, of course, I was told she was haunted, but you know, I have to see something to believe it myself.
So I mean, like
Um,
somebody called you up and said, "Hey, I want to give you this or sell you this doll." Or what, how did that happen? Like, what was that conversation like when they?
they just brought it to me. It was like, here's this haunted doll. I guess just see what we experience with her, see what happens.
Here, this doll almost killed me here. No, I'm just kidding. Like,
Yeah, I
what the
know.
heck?
Everyone's like, get rid of it. It's
You
crazy.
just ditch it off on somebody? What the heck? No,
Yeah, I don't know why someone got rid of her.
no. So
I
they
don't know
gave
her
you
story.
Lily. They gave you Lily, and you said they said what, that she was haunted.
That's all I was told.
Okay.
So I wasn't really sure. Um, it started as a few times it would look like her head would turn, like she would be facing a different way. I was like, kind of weird. Didn't think a whole lot about it. The the first thing that really got me was I bought her a pair of shoes,
Right.
and she was sitting up on the dresser. And I came home and she was sitting in a different position. No one had been in my house. And it's like, where's Lily's shoes? I
Huh.
looked everywhere. I could not find them. 2 days later, I saw them sitting there neatly beside my dog Martens, like just under my bed.
Right. Something that you probably wouldn't have done yourself in that way. You know, like you know what I mean?
No,
Wow. That's crazy.
apparently she doesn't like those shoes.
And so what happened at that point? Did you start setting up experiments around her or?
Not really, but sometimes I would take a picture of her when I left. And I would come back. She'd be in the bedroom, and I would come home, and she's on the couch. Like, I'm like, Lily, what are you doing? And then myself, like, being so logical, I'm like, Stephanie, you're talking to a doll.
Right. No,
But yeah, she's I guess she feels to me like a juvenile sort of spirit.
right.
Um, like the things she does is more like silly. Um, Yesterday, so she was just sitting on the pillow, and yesterday when I came home, my makeup was all over my bed. I was like, Lily, what are you doing? Are you wanting to play with makeup too, or something? I don't.
Oh my God.
It's
So yeah, a little bit of
hilarious
a prankster
though.
then, huh? Well, and that makes sense. Like, you know, when you said juvenile, and so do you, and you feel like that through her actions also, right? Or is that also
Yeah,
something intuitive that you're picking up on?
it's both. I'm I guess, sort of a super empath. Um, and with her, I've never been afraid of her or felt any like malice or anything like she would be harmful in any way. But she definitely is silly, I guess is the way I would describe it.
Now, Mark said that he was curious about Lily's relationship with the insane asylum.
Okay, well, I had already named her Lily. We went to Trans-Allegheny and just happened to be, well, there was a female juvenile spirit there named Lily. So we went into Lily's room. I brought her there. Um, our tour guide, there was a doll in there, and our tour guide said that that doll would just appear different places in the asylum, different rooms and things. So
Hmm.
I was like, well, I'm going to bring Lily in. Our, our tour guide said, I'm only afraid of two things, bats and creepy dolls. And of course, there's bats everywhere. And I was like, well, I sort of brought a creepy doll.
Right.
So I think I scared our tour guide.
Nice.
But I sat her down with the other doll, took some pictures and just different things with her, let her experience it. And ever since then, ever since we got back from Trans-Allegheny, she has really started doing a lot more moving around and different things.
Wow.
So I don't know if we acquired more energy somehow or if I brought Lily home with me. I really don't know.
Right. Now, so it sounds to me, you said you have kind of a science background, and a lot of times that almost doesn't always go hand in hand with paranormal. There's like the pseudoscience term, right?
Mhm.
And so scientists, a lot of times, they sort of roll their eyes or turn their nose up to paranormal. So with your science background, how has that been for you, and what was that transformation for you like?
Um, I'm still trying to figure it out, I think, but the physics of it is what fascinates me. I need to set up a camera and find out what's happening. I'm like, does she teleport or does like how are these things moving? I have no idea. I can't explain it.
Right.
So in my head, I'm trying to think, physically what would happen, and I don't know. I think part of the way those two things meet for me, like the science, and then um, I read a book by Brian Greene, a physicist, and he talks about, different dimensions and how we can cross over. And it makes sense. Like his background is string theory. I started reading about it and I'm like, the more I learn, the more it makes sense to me. Like, I think it really can happen.
Right.
But I really can't explain it yet.
Yeah, and that's always tough. There seems to be something to do with frequencies and things like that as well. Frequencies, I think, play a part. Just like with a radio station, you can listen to a whole world of music on one frequency, and you can just flip over to another frequency, and it's a completely different experience and world of music on the radio. So there is something to be said about that too, and with the human brain waves, the frequencies, the even the Schumann resonance, the frequencies in Earth. There's a lot to be said about these type of possibilities, the spiritual networks. There's a lot.
Yeah.
So, and I think it makes it difficult to scientists try to recreate things. That's what they love, right? When you set up an experiment, you want to be able to reproduce results. If you can't reproduce the results, then they're like, it's not real or whatever. It's false, right? But
Mhm.
in the world of paranormal, that's the problem. There's something about it, but it's not consistent, you know,
Yeah. It's not
and
something
that
we can
makes it really tough.
yeah.
Mark wants to know, what was the most animated experience with Lily?
Um, Probably, well, a couple days ago, I came home really late. I left her in the bedroom. And when I came home, she's literally standing, I don't know how, standing on the couch, and the door was cracked open, the front door that I locked when I left, which, like, literally, how? I don't know. Explain it.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know how she moves from room to room.
And how often would you say like that you I mean, even if it's like little things, like how often would you say, a frequency wise, that you kind of experience like, like, is it like a daily where you just kind of, or is it like once a week, once a month? I mean, how often do you kind of notice something where you're just like, huh, that's different?
Oh, definitely daily now. So
Daily.
she maybe the most animated thing is she was sitting on the bed. Um, I went out of the room. I came back in the room, and I'm like, where's Lily now? She's completely under the covers, like totally had made the bed, everything, and was just underneath it. I'm like,
Little
are
hide
you
and
in
seek
the bed
action.
or what?
That's scary. Yeah, that is like, I guess that is people's fears. I guess we all watch too many movies, like little hide and seek, and all of a sudden, you find her one day, and like one of those
Yeah,
freaking
just like I've never really been
holding the
scared.
knife.
It's just those strange things.
I mean, so now some people kind of get, they look at karma and stuff like that. How is your relationship with her? Like, do you obviously, you hold her? I mean, it seems like you give her some kind of respect. I mean, so but what kind of relationship would you say you foster with her?
Um, I think maybe she's attached to me because I'm a mother. I'm not sure, if that is her feeling, and because I'm very empathetic.
Do you feel like you're almost being like a foster mom?
Sort of, yeah. I have 3 children that are grown now, so um, I don't know. She just got attached to me or what, but
Right.
she doesn't like it when I'm gone for a long time. She definitely does
Really?
not like that.
What like how does she show it? Does she just is it she cause more destruction than normal, or
Yes. Well, like the other day, the door was open, but it had to have just been opened. Otherwise, there would have been like bugs all in my house and everything. So, and then there she was standing on the couch. It's like, are you mad at me?
oh man. So what do you hope to achieve with Lily, like with like your Facebook? I mean, are you gonna start trying to film some more experience around her, or are you gonna pretty much focus on the paranormal group, like the team, like investigating? I mean, what's your future on this?
Probably both, but I feel like Lily's going to be with me for a long time. Um, I'm not sure if she really likes being filmed. I had a like an EVP meter and would talk to her, and different times it would like go all the way up and then all the way down, and I would ask her questions, and then I started filming her and it just stopped
Right.
completely. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I believe that because I do think that, and like I said, I've been involved in this in about 30 years, and I will say that there's so many investigations where things are so good off camera, and then when the cameras roll, everything just gets dead sometimes. And then there's
Mhm.
sometimes, yeah, it can be opposite. Some I think some ghosts like to be on camera, some ghosts maybe a little more camera shy, and I think they know. I think they know. And so I can completely understand that for sure. Um, Mark wants to know: was there an epiphanal moment when meeting Lily?
Um, yes, I think when she was on the couch when I left. I came back. The bed was completely made and she was just tucked into the bed. Like, oh, there's no way that could have just, I don't know. I can't explain that. But that was a big thing. Like, okay, she moved rooms. She made the bed. She tucked herself in. I was like, something's going on here. Something's
Oh,
going on that I can't explain. And she has to be the one doing it.
right. And then, did you ever feel uncomfortable at all? Or, I mean, have you ever felt like maybe this isn't a good idea, or like have you thought about anything other than like just fostering her? Or?
Not with her. Like at Trans Allegheny, there were times I could definitely feel a lot of tension and things. But actually, when I think about it, I had my name 5 times when we were at Trans Allegheny, and 4 of those times we were in the room next to Lily's.
Hmm.
But when I was in her room there, and then every time I've been around her, I don't feel threatened at all or anything like that with her. Um, but I'm almost like people say, "You have a haunted dog, get rid of her, do this, do that." I'm like, I don't think she wants me to. And what someone would just throw away. Like there's obviously something to her. There's some sort of spirit here.
Right.
and I think she's comfortable here. So
No, that's fine, and that's why I always ask, because I know there's going to be always people that's going to think those things, and it's good to know where you stand on that. And as long as you feel like you have a handle on things and you don't feel like you're being manipulated into darker and darker times, then I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Um, and that's awesome. Um, I think I'm trying to. I was just thinking of something too that I was going to ask you, and then I got sidetracked by that thought. But we will start to wrap up this, guys. If you have any last minute questions that you want to get into her specifically for her or Lilly, we will. I'll give you that chance, and then we are going to move on to the next subject here in a second, and we're going to get the doctor's thoughts on Stephanie's thoughts on some of this these other things too. So Mark has one more. He said do you believe intensity of attention assists in Lily's animation?
I do, definitely. I don't know if it's my energy that she's feeding off of or what, but it's definitely getting stronger.
Well, free fly going on here. What the heck? So, well, and I would say too that it's very common with you know spirits that act sort of juvenile. You know, anybody with kids knows how they act. And if they don't get the attention, sometimes they can throw fits and throw tantrums, so to speak. They will let you know.
Yes,
And it
definitely. I
doesn't
think I
always
thought my makeup was everywhere last night.
right, exactly. And it doesn't mean that they're like a demon child. It just, that's what a lot of kids do, I mean, so it makes sense. And especially if you're like perpetually a child right now, you know.
Yeah.
I think most people just get concerned about child spirits because a lot of times there's dark spirits masquerading as child spirits. So, um, so yeah, it definitely. And Mark said is how intriguing this topic is. So yes, this is why we wanted to have Lilly on the show and Stephanie. And see, Lily's the front and center, right? Does she get all the attention? Is
Yeah.
she this? Is she the star?
Yes. I like being behind the camera, not in front of it.
Right. No, that's awesome. Okay. All right. So we are gonna come back to some more discussion on paranormal investigations in the third subject, but for now we're gonna do a slight departure, and we are going to. In fact, let's do this. I'm gonna pull up my screen. I'll just show you guys what I'm looking at. Here we go. All right. So just to preface it, this is one of the articles. If you look, this is a fully illustrated paranormal magazine that you can get if you're interested in getting a free copy at the beginning of each month for the next year for free. Guys, go to paranormalundergroundmagazine.net. They've been sponsoring me for years. They're great folks. Really care about them. They're good people. They really are, and they are doing all this pretty much free. They're just they've been delivering this now for a long time, and so guys, give them some love. Go hit up their paranormalunderground.net, I believe, and just tell them Josh sent you. Like I said, you'll get a full year emailed right to your email, guys, and they got amazing articles. Anyways, here's one of those. All right, let's start this again, shall we? Because that is a weird name for me I keep wanting to say Elba Witch. Okay. The Elba Twitch Legend, Pennsylvania's Mischievous Cryptid by Corey Scherer. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but guys, the Elba Twitch is a fascinating, elusive creature rooted in the folklore of the Susquehanna River. I probably murdered that name. River Valley in Pennsylvania. Often described as a small ape-like being, the Elba Twitch has captured the imagination of locals and cryptid enthusiasts alike for generations. Despite its mysterious nature, the Elba Twitch remains an integral part of regional folklore. with sightings and stories that continue to this day. So, the origin descriptions, the name Albatwitch is believed to be a contraction of the phrase apple snitch, which hints at one of the creature's most famous habits, stealing apples. The Albatwitch is often depicted as standing about 4 feet tall with a slender build covered in reddish brown fur. It is said to resemble a small Bigfoot or Sasquatch, but is much more diminutive in size. According to legend, the Albatwitches were particularly fond of the forest surrounding Chickee's Rock, a prominent cliff that overlooks the Susquehanna River near Columbia, Pennsylvania. This area has been long considered the creature's primary habitat. The Albatwitches were known to raid picnics, snatching apples from unsuspecting visitors and pelting them with fruit if they felt threatened. The image of these mysterious apple-throwing creatures has become one of the most enduring aspects of their legend. And of course, it goes on. I'm not going to read everything. It does talk about the historical accounts, back to the indigenous people, and they even have a annual Albatwitch Day festival. Of course, why not? Most of these places have festivals for it, right? So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Now, when I saw the picture, I kind of was thinking like this. I was thinking it was gonna be like 8 foot tall, but like 4 foot. That's pretty short. That's pretty short. Now, Stephanie, I'll give you a crack at this. What's kind of your initial thoughts on this type of subject? Like, what are you thinking when you hear something like this?
I find it interesting that so many different cultures have some version of this, like everywhere. This is the first one I've heard of being this small, but I don't know. It's interesting. Are there accounts of people seeing this or like?
Yeah, I mean, apparently it looks like, they even have a day around this. So this is obviously many accounts that's probably happened. Let's see. The Albatwitch. I mean, I better watch what I say. Woo! The Albatwitch may not be as well known as Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, but its place in folklore of Pennsylvania is secure. This small, mysterious creature continues to capture the imagination of those who hear its story, serving as a symbol of the unknown that still lurks in the forest of the Susquehanna River Valley. Whether you believe in the Albatwitch or not, there's no denying the enduring appeal of this apple-stealing cryptid. But it sounds like a folklore, kind of like what you're saying. I would play off of what you said and just say that there's so many areas that have legends like this, whether it's Mothman, whether it's Sasquatch, some kind of skunk ape, Bigfoot, the Yetis, again, the Albatwitch, I never even heard of some of these, but these must be like localized versions of some of these cryptid creatures. So it's definitely fascinating to me.
They're harmless.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing is apples, right? So if you're not into apples, then you may not have to worry about this thing. But then again, this thing might rip your limbs off if you don't have apples. So I don't know. You might have to like carry some around with you in Pennsylvania. Like, I'm going to be passing through there soon. I'm not too far from Pennsylvania. So, I might have to start investing in some apples then. Shoot. But Kat, what's going on, Kat? Kat's in the chat. An interesting read. I read the article. I read the article yesterday. It's cool. Yeah. I just thought it was pretty interesting. I thought it'd be something we'd try to touch on. And whenever I have a guest on here, I just love to hear their takes too and their opinions on some of these articles, because some of the stuff's not in our wheelhouse. That's why I love doing this this style. I started doing it this year with the show, and it's really nice to get a different range of opinions on even things like I said. I've UFOs and cryptids and things that I'm a ghost hunter by trade. I'm a paranormal investigator. I've done whether you want to call me a researcher, investigator, ghost hunter, I accept any of those terms, and that's my specialty. That's what I've been doing for years. And of course, along the way, though, UFOs, anything paranormal, it just becomes par for the course in that sense. But have you ever given much thought like to Bigfoot yourself?
Yeah, I have it. I mean, I've heard different theories that it could be an alien or that it could be a shapeshifter or different things like Skinwalker Ranch. So you remember that? That one was definitely not harmless. That was kind of a
Right.
violent creature, but I don't know. I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of different theories.
Oh yeah. And of course the skinwalkers could be, like the Wendigos and things like that. So with with Bigfoot, I've always or any of the cryptids, I do feel like, because I may not be like a scientist per se, but I still always try to take a logical approach. I try to use as much facts as I can, or in lack of direct facts, sometimes you have to take many stories and then try to find the truth in the middle, right?
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes you just have to draw those conclusions sometimes. And so when you really look back at some of the first, you know, recorded history from mankind, whether you're talking, the Sumerians and all these things, um, you go back to these cultures and even the old scriptures, the Old Testament and the Bible, the Book of Enoch and the Dead Sea Scrolls, like all the things that were contained in the Dead Sea Scrolls, like the Book of Giants and stuff. There seems to be multiple cultures that have depicted some type of hybrid creatures, and that's what
Hmm.
I find fascinating. Between Egypt, you know, tribes in South America, all over the world in different time zones. That and even you can even go to the Greek mythology when they talk about centaurs and minotaurs, and like these hybrid
Hmm.
type creatures. Medusa is part snake, part woman, right? And even though they have these particular type stories that seem more like godlike, but if you really just look at the pure fact of like cryptids being these hybrid creatures, but we have depictions of hybrid creatures through multiple cultures, different places of the earth where they weren't even traveling between. They didn't have ships and boats at those times. It's really fascinating to think that maybe, I try not to be too naive, and I try to think, hey, there's a possibility that maybe some of these cryptids are still around, and they may have some type of supernatural abilities, and that's why we have a hard time to truly capture them, or to truly find out the facts behind them. The other thing to think about is gorillas. Gorillas were really only discovered in recent times. Gorillas were a myth, and they were only discovered, I think, less than 200 years ago. I mean, when you think about gorillas, you think like that's something we probably would have known about for 1,000 years or something, you
Hmm.
know. But it was a myth, and it was almost like a Bigfoot for and so when you look at even something like that, then you could start to open the possibility of like, well, maybe these creatures could be real. So and that's just some of what I've kind of come across over the years. Have you given much more thought to that type of stuff, or does that stuff not really strike your fancy?
No, I think it's pretty interesting. Different theories, the theories that could be aliens, and I don't know. Definitely believe in aliens. We're not that special. We can't be the only things out there. Um,
Okay.
but it seems like like you said, these creatures really, they don't want to be seen much or don't want to interact with us much.
Right. I see
Maybe they're just
you. It's good
studying
to
us. I don't know.
I see you. It's good to see you in chat. So I try to call out chat when I can. I'm not too uppity. We try to talk with our peeps.
Yeah.
I love it. Kat and ICU are longtime regulars. All right. And Mark, I guess, do you know Mark? He probably, either way, I'm glad to have Mark too. He was asking a lot of questions. So I love the participation. Anytime we get questions. Um, but okay, we are going to move on to our final subject here, and we will just have a discussion. And then after that, we'll do the fourth mini segment. Is once we're done with this segment, we'll kind of transition to whatever questions that you guys have. It'll be like a last minute kind of wrap up and whatever you guys want to talk about and any last minute stuff. So have a chance after this last article. We'll give you guys a chance. All right. All right, here we go. Oop, I don't want to cut you out. All right, here we go. Swayed by the spirits, my experiences with the human pendulum experiment. If you are a seasoned paranormal investigator, you may have heard of an experiment called the human pendulum. This very controversial method of communicating with spirits has been around for a while. It entails an investigator being used to communicate with a spirit. The premise is that the spirit will push the investigator one way for yes and one way for no. I believe the true way that this really works is if the person that is being used as the communication device has noise canceling headphones that play some sort of music or sound so they can't be heard, can't hear what's being said. They should also be blindfolded. This is most likely the Estes method, or this is almost like the Estes method, where your senses are separated from what's going on around you. This allows for sterile conditions when asking questions. Some may ask, if a spirit can move a person one way or another while asking questions, then why can they not move doors or objects? This is a very good question. It is believed that the spirits use the energy from the subject if they are moving. Until recently, I was skeptic of this theory. The problem I see with the paranormal science community is that it is still new and people are trying to make names for themselves. Like any science, you will have pseudoscience and people will who will swear by certain methods that truly don't work or are very questionable. Don't get mad at me that started about SLS, or don't get me started about SLS and how I think it's an extremely flawed tool. So let's see here. I'm not going to go too much more into it. I just want to kind of get the gist of it. If you guys want to read the rest of it, definitely get the magazine. But you know, I personally want to get into a little bit of discussion about this type of thing. Now, have you personally used this technique so far? And I know you just said you started fairly recently, but have you done anything like this?
Not exactly like that, but at Trans Allegheny, I did, I guess, semi-Estes method. I sat in one of the rooms, completely dark, by myself, and definitely had an experience of a woman talking to me. I sound crazy saying this, but a woman named Nancy, elderly woman that was in the asylum, was worried about her cat, and it just kept coming through and coming through, like she was just really wanted to talk to me.
Right.
But that was, yeah, that was definitely real.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I haven't done the human pendulum experiment, but um, mostly because I did a lot of investigations here as of lately, like by myself, and then I've done some more with a few people. But like I'll do dowsing rod sessions and stuff like that. Um, I don't even do a lot of the Estes method anymore. It's like I just kind of got to the point now where I just film for the show and I don't really try to prove everything. There was a time in my career when I was like trying to prove everything all the time, like cross, validation and all that stuff. And, you know, I just kind of got to that point where I'm like, I'm just going to film and people can believe me or not. I'm not going to fake anything. I have integrity and I'm just going to film stuff. And if people want to believe it, they can believe it. If the dowsing rods move, if they don't want to believe in dowsing rods. Now, I will say, with that being said, like SLS, like I get what she's saying, and the SLS camera. I mean, I have a literally, like, if you go on my YouTube, you can scroll back far enough and find where I have a tutorial on how to build one. But I took mine down a long time ago, and I don't use it because, again, once you learn the true science behind how they work, it's really not credible at all. So it's just more good looking for video. So,
What what is the science behind it? I don't really know.
well, the SLS camera, it's of course it started out with the Xbox Connect, which was the sensors. In fact, think I think, yeah. I still have some of the camera here. So this is a Xbox Connect sensor. Of course, I had it all kind of taped and rigged, and it's in parts in drawers now. But in any case, the SLS the original intent for the Connect cameras was to try to find the outline detection of like a human being, but it uses it in such a way that it really tries to create the shapes. So it can take like anything that it perceives as a potential human, it can create the stick figure. And so it doesn't mean that it's detecting a person. It has nothing to do with like detecting eyes, or like with our modern phones, a lot of times a lot of it has to do with eye detection.
Mhm.
um but with the Xbox Connect, it's just trying to make a human shape, and it's doing the best it can. So, and if you dig into the literature of it, it explains it even better than I can. But ultimately, it just it's not something that, like, a lot of people thought that it was like, oh, it's detecting somebody. You know what I mean? Like, what the
Mhm.
heck? But the way it looks at everything in this, even though it's a three-dimensional room and it's got the lasers that go out, it sort of looks at everything at this two-dimensional level and tries to actually map out a human. It tries. It does. It's not just saying, "Oh, I see a human." It's like actually trying to actively say, "Okay, I can do this, and this looks like a human." So there you go. You know, and it just it's not accurate. Um, and then of course it would constantly, there was this it would always, like, the arms would like wave or something, or like do these funky looking dances things. And of course that was like common. Everybody would be like, look, can you wave? And it'd like do the wave. Like, you could almost predict it, you know. And so it's just not good. It's become now sort of an inside joke. So I don't think a lot of people really use them much. I don't use them. So is there, so far in your experience, has there been something that you have found to be reliable for yourself, that you feel like, hey, this is pretty decent evidence?
Um, let's see the different things I've used. The EMF meter is interesting, just the way I've used it with Lily, the way it comes and goes. I still don't really exactly understand it. Let's see. The REM pods definitely have used, and they seem to have been, I don't know, they're fascinating, but they definitely have gone off at predictable times and things like that.
Okay.
Also, let's see, even so, one time I spent the night in Lake Lore in one of the room that's supposed to be haunted. I guess a woman was murdered, a bride was murdered in that room. Um, and that was crazy. All kinds of stuff went on all night, but we had cat balls set up in the floor. And exactly at midnight, they all start going off. I don't
Nice.
know why. I don't know. Nothing in the room moved, nothing, but it was interesting.
Oh yeah. And I think that's a good approach to take in a way, is like, some investigators, they'll have things like that happen, and they'll just be like, oh, that was paranormal. They just instantly, they always go there. But having the takeaway where you just say, that was interesting, that's a good way to be, because you want to always still stay as open-minded as you can. I moved into the believer side of things, way back when I had my very first digital recorder. So when we got away from tapes, and we went to a digital recorder, and then I set one up in my own house. I was like, all right, I'm going to set one up my own house. And this was like 20 plus years ago. I'm going to set one up in my house. This way I want to know, like, if I don't want any contamination, because anytime I'd seen any kind of EVPs or anything, I just was never sure. Like, I was never sure, like, was there contamination? Was there somebody somehow, and so when and me and my wife at the time, when we were together, like, we had set it up, and so and ICU, no, that's not one of my inventions. That's just something I built. But anyways, so I had shut down everything. I had, like, literally, like, even turned the power off to the house. I didn't want even, like, the refrigerator motor running. I want no interference. And so I set up a recorder. I know, like, in the middle of telling a story. But also, hey, look, cat balls. Yeah, I don't want to dig through a ton of my equipment. I got, like, a ton of back there. But, like, but I still have it to this day, my original recorder. And so set it up, and literally, like, we did some EVP sessions. I went into the at that time I had this computer that I had a music studio program, because I had played a little bit of guitar, stuff like that. I'd play it into the computer, for recording. So I used that for all my EVP breakdown, because it had a great audio program. Like, you could see the wave, you could, like, enhance it, you could loop it, you could do all this cool stuff to, like, you could try to clean it up a little bit, so you could try to hear the EVP stuff. But, like, there was like one little messed up recording. It was like 30 seconds long. And I just, like, hit play. I was like, well, I bet it's the first one. I'm like, yeah, so I was like, and I was listening to it, and like, I heard, like, a little bit of scuffling or something, like, moving around kind of noise. And then I hear, like, a child, like, say, like, we love this. And I'm like, what the heck? And then there's, like, this scuffle. And then you just hear a man, like, yell at the top of his voice, like an adult male, go, "Spirit!" Just like that. And I'm like, what? And that blew me. I got, like, chills, like, the goosebumps on the back of my neck, all that stuff, right? Like, the hair, like, oh, that was, like, intense. Like, I was like, what the hell? And that, for me, that was my moment. That was my moment of, like, wow, like, all those years of just doubting myself, of, like, well, maybe it was, like, whatever. I was like, no, something there. That was, I can't explain it. That was a real moment. And that was when it really,
like at Trans Allegheny, Stephanie, and then someone really loudly goes, "Listen!" It was very, I don't know. I have it recorded, but I don't quite understand how it works either. But
I think for me,
interesting things on there, but it definitely said Stephanie, like 5 times.
yeah. And Mark's got a question for you, which well, I think she already answered this, but I'm gonna let her answer it again. But he said, how young were you when you had your first experience of paranormal?
That I can remember, about 13.
Yeah. I was like, I think she had said that earlier. I don't know if maybe you were, I think you might have been here, but maybe you didn't catch it. But yeah, when you were talking about with your grandfather, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but no, just to get back on the EVPs real quick, I out of everything over the years, the best, what I would call evidence, is EVPs. That's, to me, that's the best, because I've taken pictures and videos and got countless, I've done so much shit over the years. And the only thing that remains fairly consistent is EVPs, and it's just phenomenal. Every time I hear something like that, it's goosebumps. It's awesome. It
Yeah,
really
that's
is.
come from somewhere.
And I can't explain it, but apparently to me that just seems to be the most solid form. Because even with the spirit boxes,
Mhm.
like that's cool and everything, but it's always scanning radio frequencies. So there's DJs and music, and there's always something that can, blurt that out. But with the recorders, with the microphones, it's like, and when you hear these words and you hear yelling or you hear things that you didn't hear in a perfectly quiet room, and that you're the only one there, it was a controlled environment, it's crazy. It's crazy. So still to this day, it's just not as exciting for the TV crowd, because EVPs, it's like you don't get that instant gratification as you do like with spirit boxes and things like that. So
Yeah.
uh but yeah, and ICU says don't forget to like and subscribe. So, but guys, we will wrap up the last segment there, and we will head into what I like to call the wrap up. And this is your chance that if you have any additional questions for myself or for Stephanie, for sure, like, hey, now's your chance to get in any questions that you have. If you want us to talk about anything real quick, and I've got a little bit more time. Oh, and so this is a chance for we'll plug everything, guys. If you haven't, like and subscribe for the Everything Paranormal Show on YouTube here. Also, I have the TEPS Investigates show, which you can find on Paraflix right here. Paraflix. You can use the promo code TEPS 25 for, like, I think 25% off for an annual subscription. Paraflix is like the paranormal Netflix. Basically, it's nothing but original shows. It's really cool. It's awesome, and we've been growing for the last 3-4 years or so. It's just been amazing. We're available everywhere, and I've been blessed to be a part of the family there. They consider me family, and so I love it. These guys are awesome. Um, so, and yes, I will answer your question on that one, Mark. So, the other thing too, let me grab it, is also My Paranormal: A Guide to the Spirit Realms by me, Josh Morris. This is an actual book. It really is. It's got words and everything. No pictures, though. I'm sorry. Uh, it's not the most scholarly read, but it did sell internationally, so I can at least say I'm an international selling art author. Did a book tour for it for a while, so it's okay. I want to write another one. Like anytime I like try to read some of it, I'm like, I could have done better. It's like when you're just critical of yourself. But no, I gotta do some shameless plugs, and of course, Stephanie, where can everybody find you at?
Um, well, I think a lot of people follow Lily. I guess I will post on hers Facebook
Right,
because I'm on Facebook also. So
and that's just Lily Rose. So go to Facebook, find Lily Rose, and follow. And but yeah, because you said now you and let me I'll kind of clarify, because I do want to get to this question that Mark has. But because there is, it's not as black and white. But now on for you, Stephanie, you said you're part of a team? Is this your own team? Is this like or is this like, did you join somebody else's team? Because I know you said you kind of got into it like through like kind of like dating, and kind of like going out and like,
yeah, I don't really have a team. It's kind of me and then one other person sometimes.
okay, all right. That's why I'm just asking. So okay, so that's awesome. So yeah, anything like, and what I always tell people too is that, look, I don't have an ego like at all, and if you ever needed anything or you ever had any questions, or anything, I'm always here for you. So you can always hit me up. You got access to me now. So if you need anything, questions, anything like that, I've always, I always try to look at it like, hey, it don't matter how long you've been in this industry. We're all still learning, but it does help when you have people that's been doing this for many, many years, because we can help avoid some of the pitfalls that we went through over the years too. So by all means, always feel free to reach out. And who knows, maybe as I travel and film, maybe we can get you in a TV episode or something. Uh, who knows? Depends
That would
on
be
if
fun. I just don't
if
have a team. I don't really know anyone else around me.
it's all good. You don't have to have a team. I have a ish team, so it's okay. It's building more and more, and we're doing lots of things right now. We got a lot of events going on. If anybody's local to the Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia area, this October, the first 4 Thursdays of every October, we're doing a public ghost hunt. The tickets are on sale. I think a couple of the nights are sold out, but I think there should be availability though for sure. But go to my Facebook, the Everything Paranormal Show. Uh, Go to my Facebook, and there's links. That's a pin post, and you can get tickets.
Where
So
is that? I'm from Bristol.
Bristol,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tennessee, Virginia.
So the historic home that we're doing is actually Pleasant Hill is in Bristol, Virginia.
Okay. Wow.
It was Bud Phillips' old home. So if you're familiar with Bud Phillips, the historian, that was did a lot of the history for Bristol, and also even a lot of the ghost stories of Bristol. That was his old house as well, but it's one of the second houses that was built for that historic hill, that area where you had the King House, and then you
Hmm.
had Pleasant Hill was next, and then you start having that was over on Johnson Street.
I had no
So
idea. That's right, like where I'm from.
right, well, that's where I'm doing. They asked me, the owners of the historic house there asked me to host the. So we're doing 4 events.
I'll
So
be
I'm
there.
excited. I'm excited. So, but yeah, so anybody that wants to go that's near Bristol, Virginia in October, get your tickets. Come and see. It's going to be a good time. It's like 8:30 to midnight. Unless you do the VIP, then it's overnight. You get to actually sleep there. It's like the museum you can sleep in. It's pretty cool. Um, I investigated. It was season 1, episode 1 of the TEPS Investigate series. So I'm pretty excited for that. Okay, Mark. Mark asked, "Are the popular TV ghost chasing shows valid?" So I'll even pop that up on the screen. Okay. So I guess Stephanie, you want to take a shot at any of this, or do you feel like you're too inexperienced to take a shot at this?
I mean, I've watched some of them, but I don't know. You probably know more about.
Okay, so are they valid? No, and yes. They are. It is yes and no, and I'm going to say, because my team. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, real quick, I don't want to bore you guys with a bunch of stuff about me, but my team started. We started back in the day. I mean, I've been doing this for like 30 years, but like in the early 2000s, I lived in Florida, and we started a team, and we ended up running into somebody that knew somebody, and next thing you know, we're doing the preliminary investigations for the brand new show called Ghost Hunters. Ghost Hunters was new at the time. They were getting into their second season. They were getting inundated with cases. So we started doing cases all in that southern, like that Florida panhandle, southern, like Georgia, southern Alabama, southern Bama, Louisiana, even parts of even all the way out toward the central part of Florida. So we got to do a lot of the preliminary investigations for the shows. With that being said, there is some investigations that I went on, like St. Augustine Lighthouse, things like that, compared to the TV. I'm like, well, definitely didn't happen with me. But I will say that there's definitely things I don't think are legitimate. I do think there is a lot that was, and this is not just, I'm not talking about ghost hunters. I'm also just talking about in general, that because everything blew up. There were so many shows, and then you have Zach Baggins and all these guys. And look, I always give Zach props, because anybody that can have a show that lasts like 30 seasons or whatever, however many seasons he has, like, I got to give him props. Like, whether or not I believe in his ethics or whatever, that's a different story. And I've heard a lot of things about him. I heard he's a pretty douchey guy. I don't know. So I can just tell you, it's sort of a mixed bag of nuts. I think that there's times when I listen to some of their evidence and I hear some of the EVPs, and I can usually tell, and they usually sound pretty good. Like, when you hear EVPs that sound like they're from the white noise, if that makes sense. If it sounds like they're generated, usually when somebody whispers or you hear somebody talking on a recording, believe it or not, even whispering, it sounds pretty loud. Like, it sounds pretty distinct. It's almost like its own layer above the white noise. But when you get an EVP, it's like as if the white noise itself is manifesting the words, if that makes sense. Anybody that's ever done a lot of evidence, like, and I do this gesture a lot because of headphones, I have done it many, many times, where I'm sitting there and I've got my headphones like, yes, I know they're Pink Kitty headphones. Don't judge. They light up too. Anyways, so like, I'll have my headphones and I'll be like, hey, and so I do see valid evidence at times, with the shows, but there's some things I'm like, come on now, come on. Like, I know. And I know for a fact, and I just don't want to point out certain shows, but I know for a fact I know some of the fake techniques that goes on, especially YouTube. Like, some of your top YouTubers, yeah. And I've collaborated with different people, and some people, most of the people I collaborate are pretty legit, but I also know a lot of techniques that are used in the industry, and I hate it. And I refuse. That's probably why I don't have a million followers on YouTube, because I don't follow those techniques. I have a pretty good following on Paraflix, but I just don't fake it. I can't. So, so let that be a lesson. See, Stephanie, don't end up being a faker unless you want to find it. Unless you want a ton of views, there's little secret methods you can do, and people will be like, oh my God, but I try to be as honest as possible, to a flaw, probably.
Well, me too. Very, very logical.
Yeah. But I hope that answers your question, Mark. Guys, if you have anything else that you want to get in at the last minute. Oh yeah, check this out. Look what I got today in the mail. Look at this. Little TEPS investigates on Paraflix, like, Tumblr. Look at that. It's pretty neat, huh? It's even got the logo, and it's like kind of raised. I don't know if you guys can tell from the lighting. I'm trying to get on an angle. It's like raised lettering, like the logo. So it's pretty nice. I was really, really impressed at how it came out. It's pretty cool. I don't really have a lot of like marketed stuff, So, but this Tumblr hat, it's brand new. Like I said, I literally got this today, so I'm pretty excited. And you can't even order it anywhere. You can get my shirts. Cat's got one. All right, guys. So it looks like that's about it. Again, I want to thank my guest, Stephanie. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on. I know, guys, I know she can't hear you, but give her a round of applause in your home, because bless her heart, she doesn't do these a whole lot. So I was really happy to see her come out and share her insights, and it's always good to hear other people's opinions and get to hear what she said. And I loved hearing your story about Lilly. I look forward to seeing some other things, and I hope you get some static cams set up for Lilly. Who knows? It would be nice to just to get, even if you get like those Wise cameras or something, like $20. They're not very much, and they're like the little cameras, and you can get. It'd be really cool just to kind of see what you find, and who knows? Who knows? I've it just would be pretty neat. I'd love to see the I love to see to this where the story goes.
Yeah.
But other than that, did you have anything else that you want to pass on?
I don't think so. But you know, Lily will always be around. She'll be posting.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll even get to have you back on soon and at some point. And then, like I said, maybe it's whenever I'm your way, maybe we can all do some kind of collaboration or something. I always like
Okay.
to do that
Yeah.
whenever I can. So, all right, guys. Stephanie, stick around for a second, guys. Thank you all so much, Mark. I appreciate all the questions, Kat, of course, and ICU. If I'm missing anybody else that snuck in there, I apologize. But guys, thank you all so much, and we will see you next week. Bye.